Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Tian Yu. Coming up in this edition, U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle has resigned amid widespread outrage over her agency's failure to prevent the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the Beijing Declaration on strengthening unity by Palestinian factions. The opening ceremony plans of the Paris Olympics still divide opinions among locals and visitors. We begin in North America. U.S. President Joe Biden has pledged to appoint a new head of the Secret Service following the resignation of Kimberly Cheatle on Tuesday. Her departure came in the wake of security failures surrounding the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Owen Fairclough has the latest.
Bipartisan congressional outrage is a rare commodity in the U.S., especially in this presidential election.
You should resign.
I will be joining the chairman in calling for the resignation of the director.
I just don't think this is partisan.
The head of the Secret Service resigning less than 24 hours after making lawmakers livid over her stonewalling questions about the security failure surrounding the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. She told staff in an email, "I take full responsibility for the security lapse. In light of recent events, it is with a heavy heart that I have made the difficult decision to step down."
She just resigned?
If Cheatle's fate was perhaps inevitable, her decision seemed to take the Speaker of the Republican-led House of Representatives by surprise.
Our reaction, the immediate reaction to her resignation, is that it is overdue.
Cheatle was pilloried in a congressional hearing over her agency's failure at a Pennsylvania rally to stop Thomas Matthew Crooks shooting at Trump from a rooftop just 135 meters away.
It has been 10 days since an assassination attempt on a former president of the United States, regardless of party. There need to be answers.
President Joe Biden thanked Cheatle for her service. And after Biden stepped down as candidate for November's presidential election, there is now pressure on the Secret Service to safeguard Vice President Kamala Harris as she prepares to accept the Democratic nomination next month, as well as Republican nominee Donald Trump, who on Tuesday laid the blame for his ordeal with the Biden-Harris administration, adding, "I took a bullet for democracy."
That was Owen Fairclough reporting from Washington. On the Middle East, various Palestinian factions have expressed hope that the Beijing Declaration could help settle the Palestinian issue once the war in Gaza is over. This comes as a host of Palestinian parties, including Hamas and Fatah, met in Beijing and agreed to end divisions and strengthen Palestinian unity. They signed the Beijing Declaration in the Chinese capital on Tuesday. All this took place as months of conflict between Israel and Hamas has killed tens of thousands of Palestinian people. Dong Xue has more.
14 Palestinian groups, including Hamas and Fatah, signed the Beijing Declaration in agreeing to a list of commitments at a reconciliation meeting hosted by China. The reconciliation between Hamas, Fatah, and other groups is being widely seen as a key turning point in internal Palestinian relations. The two main groups have been bitter rivals since a conflict arose in 2006, after which Hamas seized control of Gaza. Fatah controls the Palestinian Authority, which has partial administrative control of the occupied West Bank. As Palestinians try to secure their future, Fatah favors a peaceful approach, in contrast to Hamas militants. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi brought the sides together in Beijing, believing Palestinian unity was a prerequisite for any future solution.
最核心的成果就是明确巴解组织
The key outcome is the affirmation that the Palestine Liberation Organization is a sole legitimate representative of all the Palestinian people. The prominent point is the agreement to form an international reconciliation government centered on the post-conflict governance of Gaza. The present call is for a truly independent Palestinian state in accordance with the relevant United Nations resolutions.
After 3 days of intensive talks held in what was called a positive and constructive spirit, the groups finally came to an arrangement. As the fighting continues in Gaza, the Beijing Declaration stressed the need for an international conference under the auspices of the United Nations with a full mandate and broad regional and international participation. Wang Yi also restated China's support by taking 3 steps to promote comprehensive, lasting, and sustainable ceasefire, to promote post-conflict governance in Gaza by Palestinians, and to promote Palestine for full membership of the United Nations as a preliminary step to a 2-state solution. Representatives from both Fatah and Hamas expressed gratitude towards China for its support and what they called the promotion of justice for Palestine in the international community. They also expressed the hope that by strengthening the unity of all parties and implementing this consensus, there could be an early settlement of the Palestinian issue. Beijing remains committed as a peace broker in the region, while the unity between Hamas and Fatah are essential for rebuilding Gaza post-conflict. Well, this is yet another historic win for Beijing's diplomacy following China brokered deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran last year.
That was Dong Xue reporting from Beijing. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the Beijing Declaration. He says it is an important step towards unity in Palestine and a path to a 2-state solution. Jody Jacobs reports from the United Nations.
Known now as the Beijing Declaration, 14 Palestinian political factions agreed to end their divisions and form an interim national unity government. These factions include rivals Hamas and Fatah. Hamas currently runs Gaza and Fatah is part of the Palestinian Authority in the occupied West Bank. The negotiations were spearheaded by Beijing after previous efforts by Egypt and other Arab countries failed. In response, the UN Secretary General, through his spokesperson, welcomed the move.
The Secretary General appreciates the efforts made by the People's Republic of China, as well as efforts of other countries involved in facilitating the process. We remain committed to working with all stakeholders towards a comprehensive resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, based on the vision of a 2-state solution, 2 states living side by side in peace and security, with recognized borders.
Antonio Guterres says that he hopes that the parties will follow through with the agreement.
I think this is an important step towards furthering Palestinian unity. The Secretary General encourages all factions to overcome their differences through dialogue and urges them to follow up on the commitments that were made in Beijing and the declaration they signed onto.
There are no time frames in place just yet for when the new government will be formed. Meanwhile, the UN says there are no planned meetings between Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Secretary General. Netanyahu will be in Washington this week to address the US Congress.
That was Jody Jacobs at the UN headquarters. Meantime, Palestinians hope the agreement can bring long overdue peace and unity to their lives. Akram Al-Satari has this report from Gaza.
Because of the agreement that has already been declared in China, Palestinians have been experiencing different failed attempts to reunite the Gaza Strip with the West Bank and to bring together the Palestinian political rivals and to start a path for unity that will end up in bringing peace, comfort, and independence to the Palestinians. Palestinians who have been facing enormous struggles in their daily life in Gaza Strip and who has been under that imminent risk of death because of the ongoing war. There are many external and internal challenges that are facing the Palestinian rivals and that would prevent any unity to be realized. However, they are hopeful that this path that has already been launched in China, in Beijing, would end in some reunity and ending the war that has been going on for such a very long time. Palestinians are hopeful. They still pray that this event brings peace and comfort to their life.
That was Akram Al-Satari on the Palestinian public reaction to the China-brokered unity deal. Finally, in Europe, the Olympic spirit is growing in Paris with just a few days until the opening ceremony. However, the idea to hold the ceremony on the Seine River continues to divide opinions among locals and visitors. Wu Bing spoke with some travelers and residents in Paris to find out more.
For the first time, the Olympics opening ceremony will not be held in a stadium, but will be open to the public. The ceremony will start about 6 kilometers away from Trocadero Square, and boat parades will be held on the Seine River. As for the details of the ceremony, it's being kept under wraps. The rehearsing team is scattered around France and will not have a full rehearsal before the official opening.
We don't know anything, and I know, I've seen a lot of interviews lately, and people always ask, can you give us this little hint, this little something? And they keep saying, no, I can't say anything, so I can't wait.
Approximately 94 boats and over 10,000 athletes, according to Olympic.com, will sail down the Seine River. The flotilla will be divided into national delegations and will be equipped with cameras to allow television and online viewers to see the athletes up close.
I feel there are positives and negatives, but there is a first time for everything. I think even if the ceremony has some flaws, it doesn't matter, because it will be the first time something like this has ever been done.
A tightened security and safety measures along the Seine River are also drawing criticism.
You can see all the streets now that are partially blocked. So now you need to justify yourself in the way I live here, and if you don't have that, you can't enter your home. So that's great for the city, for the economic state of the city, but I think there's some problem that needs to be fixed.
The opening ceremony is set to last for around 4 hours, and over 3,000 performers will be joined by thousands of spectators along the Seine River for the celebrations. Details for the spectacle have not been disclosed. All will be unveiled at dusk on July 26th.
That was Wu Bing reporting from Paris. Recapping today's headlines. U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle has resigned amid widespread outrage over her agency's failure to prevent the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the Beijing Declaration on strengthening unity by Palestinian factions. The opening ceremony plans of the Paris Olympics still divide opinions among locals and visitors. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports, and culture, you can subscribe to The Beijing Hour, a 1-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Tian Yu. Thank you for listening.